So, hey, Adam here. So, I was thinking, I really just do these videos like very spontaneously. And I feel that spontaneous, like when you know something needs to be done, you do it right away, poses the biggest opportunity to attack evil attacking us, right? Because we're all humans. We're all designed according to a paradigm where there is a consistent behaviors that we have to engage in to support our quality of lives, and we all have that in common. We all have very similar DNA and ancestry, so I consider us all family. And to be perfectly honest, I consider living things family, but it's just I have a lot to work through. I mean, we're kind of born in this math, right? We're like born in math of how things work. We don't really had a choice. You know, I'm Adam Etzel. I was born May 5th, 1985 in Houston, Texas. Grew up in a cult called the Worldwide Church of God. I grew up in poverty for the first few years of my life. My parents, you know, what they wanted to get out of poverty, so they got out of poverty, and then we were really nice off. We had nice things and stuff. But you know, we didn't really have a choice. We're just kind of here, and we're trying to figure out what is the best thing to do to be here, to have a good life. Is there consistency? You know, that's what we're looking for as scientists, and we're looking for things that are consistent, that where there is a correlation between, you know, if I do this, this will happen. And that's what we need for our health. That's what we need for our quality of life. That's what we need for surplus, for happiness, for joy, right? We need consistency. And because behaviors are centralized, we can tell that it's actually impossible for there not to be a God. Because if there were not a God, we could basically do anything we want and be happy, right? And that's not the case. You know, we have a way that we're made, a way that we're designed. There's things you can and cannot do, and we operate a certain way in the environment according to however what's ruling it dictates. And that's just how things are, right? And it's not like, okay, where's God? Is God over there? Is God over there? It's not like a man or a beast or something, you know. It's all around us. God is above the math. So you're looking for God, you look at the math, right? What does the math tell you to do? Math tells you that we need to love others as we love ourselves. Math tells us that if we bless those that curse us, we're going to have a better outcome than cursing us than curse us. So there's this thing called righteousness, right? And so there's consistency in the environment. And when people are speaking, they are speaking around this paradigm of consistency, and that when we do things that result in better outcomes, called righteousness, right? So, but words are very abstract. Words are intelligent because they're abstract. So, like if your mother tells you, look both ways before you cross the street. Let's pretend you're a robot. I tell the robot, look both ways before it crosses the street. Every little street's going to come to, it's going to look both ways before it crosses the street. What defines a street? Streets have a way that it appear. They have cars going across them. You can tell that this is a street because there are constraints and properties of streets, and we're meeting all that there. So we're at a street, look both ways, right? And so a robot can move around the environment and does only that. That's all it does, right? So I try to make it more simple by visualizing it as a robot. But now you got more commands, more and more and more commands. And they're intelligent because they're causing movement, right? And they're causing an action. They're causing switches and many switches to go on and off through these abstract commands. So words are intelligent. So, with that being said, that words are intelligent, if people are getting things wrong around words, if they're reading words and they don't actually understand what they mean, they're not understanding the consistency of righteousness and health and surplus and joy and happiness in the environment, and they think it means something else, it's still intelligent. But this is the problem. The problem is that these words are the words of life, right? This is how life, this is the operating agreement for life. Oops, my light went off. So this is the operating agreement for life. It's the narrow path. There's a lot of things you can do to die. But look, we're not dying. See, you go about life and all you have to do is not die. That's all you have to do is, right, not die. There's a lot of ways you can not die. There's a lot of ways you can die, but you see, we're in kind of like in this little, like, this centralized little area of the universe where the probability is higher that we're not going to die, right? So, so if you are taking something that's intelligent, and you are misplacing a point in life, you're switching it on over to death. So now we have an intelligent death algorithm circulating the environment because they got something wrong. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it looks calculated. It looks coordinated. It kind of is. It kind of is calculated and coordinated. And it may be some malevolent force in our environment with us that's attacking us like an evil spirit, right? Which I don't dismiss really anything. I just keep thinking and keep looking, understanding the picture. I adjust the picture of how I understand the environment a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. So what has been happening is that we have a paradigm, a mutated form of a paradigm for life that is now resulting into things that make people unhappy and are struggling, and the math spirals into outcomes where people are dying. The way families operate, right? The way you think about having a family, the way you think about getting married, the way you think about having a job and supporting yourself and what can you do, your brain has evolved to handle a lot. Like a lot. You can do a lot, right? But you're thinking about it in these terms of like, well, I can only do so much. I have to go to a job like this because I have these social pressures. I have to do things in a certain way. It has to be a 9-to-5 job. I have to have respect. I have to have, perks, right? Whatever. That's how you're making it work. It doesn't have to work that way. It doesn't have to be as hard to support yourself and your family. You can have very large families and support yourself and your family. So basically, there shouldn't be any anxiety about having a family, about having kids, having more kids, whatever. Have kids. Great. Kids are great. Right? So I love all of you. You guys are my favorite thing in the world. So, I love humans. And I think everybody should love humans because that's us. And if you don't love us, we're in trouble. You're in trouble. So you should love us. And I think I take it very personally myself, but it's not something that I think should be isolated just to me, So you've kind of made things into a religion that really shouldn't be a religion, right? And you made anxiety into a religion. You made stature, how you gain stature into society or religion. And people kind of mix it up with Christianity, but it's not Christianity, right? And then on top of that, they get things wrong in Christianity. And that becomes the death algorithm. So all of this is connected. Like, it's because, like I was saying, it's intelligent. All this is connected. So this is leading to people, pressures on women deciding I need to get an abortion, right? And then after they come to this outcome, like, well, because I read abortion stories. I was going through the abortion stories. I was trying to understand abortion because I love human beings. If we're not keeping something sacred, it's not sacred. You understand? It's a very 1 = 1 thing going on there. You're not making that sacred. It is not sacred. And you have just made, this is how, like, humans are made, right? So I don't agree with abortion. If you want to go on all these complex ethical arguments, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. We're talking about deciding that we don't want making choices that you don't have to take responsibility for, right? Well, I don't want the baby, so let's kill it, right? I already have a baby girl, so let's kill it. Like, it's not really about, you want to go into all these other areas. We need to stop. Just completely stop. Go, women's bodies, whatever, stop. This is not what we're talking about. There's the base principle. This is how human beings are made, right? If you have made a human being, it's great news. It is great news. If you and your boyfriend and you're like 13 years old and you guys get pregnant, it's great news because you just made a human being. That's the bottom line, right? So now you got pressure from your parents. Oh, my mom's going to hate me. I have to sacrifice something for my mom. So I was going through these abortion stories, and one of the abortion stories, she said, it's the greatest sacrifice that anybody could ever make. And I telling you, I did not understand this at all, like at all. But I around the time I'm reading things about empathy and psychology and things, so I'm like trying to understand. Like I'm trying to understand. I'm looking at the words. I'm trying to get the words to mean something different in my brain because I don't understand it. To me, it looks like it's some cheap, nasty excuse. Like I made the greatest sacrifice I ever made. No, the better sacrifice would be to keep the baby and to raise the baby, and then you'd fall in love with it. But I was thinking, okay, maybe I'm thinking about this wrong. Maybe she's actually sensing something that she's making a sacrifice. I'm sitting there, I'm looking at it, and I'm reading the story over and over and over again. And she was talking about how much pressure she was putting on her mom, and then it snapped. She sees the baby as herself, like another, like an arm, like a leg, right? She sacrificed herself. She's serious. She's serious because she's not sacrificing another living being. She's sacrificing her own body, right? For her mom, right? So her mom and her dad are putting pressure on her for not having a baby. They're basically going to destroy you, right? You got a baby, you're 13 years old, you're 16 years old, you get a baby, they're going to destroy you. They're going to destroy you psychologically. They're going to tear down your self-esteem. They're going to call you all these bad names. They're going to ground you, right? Do you see the problem? They have a baby, a human being. We have another human being with us that we get to enjoy their smile, their laughter, that we get to educate them. They get to see what they're going to do in life. And you are destroying your child for having one of those. So you see the problem. And why are you doing that? Well, how are you going to support the baby? How are you, who's going to feed the baby? They're not responsible. We're not like me. When I was, okay, see, all this, pride, everything's wrong. And I really, am I pissing somebody off? Because I don't care. You can attack me. I love talking to people. I want to talk to you. If I'm pissing you off and you're coming at me, you're going to have to face me, and I like facing people. So that's the problem. That's a really big problem. The really big problem is that you are destroying humanity through your pride, through your anxiety. But you see, I don't really blame people for these things because I'm looking at a bunch of math. As a neuroscientist, a psychologist, and a game theorist, I'm looking at a bunch of math, right? I don't blame anybody. I'm just trying to fix the math, right? The math that's going on that's causing abortions, that's causing murders, that's causing all this stuff. That's what we need to focus on. We need to focus on the math because, you want to look at whose fault it is. This doesn't fix the problem. It only tries to fix the problem in the scope of punishment. Maybe we can deter this from happening in punishment. But that is not actually getting down to the root of why it's happening at all. It's like, let's say we have this amorphous blob coming at us called evil, right? And this amorphous blob's coming at us through society and evil. And, punishment is like a whip. It's like a switch. We keep hitting it back, keep hitting it back, keep hitting it back. But it's just mutating out of control and consuming us, and people are dying, right? We need to fix the math is what we need to do, not accuse, or it's your fault, your fault. That's the same math going back and forth. The math spiraling out of control. But what it is it's causing you're living. It's in called a dominated strategy in game theory. You're basically in a mutation of the best strategy and everything else, right? There's one best strategy and everything else, right? And we're not really going to be, it's really complex because this is talking about the math of all the universe, right? So knowing what the dominant strategy is, it's like this very complex thing that's constantly evolving. People say that John Forbes Nash was wrong about that, and he's not. It's just the fact that we don't really know what it is exactly. We have a picture of it. We have an abstraction of it in the things that Jesus said. That is the dominant strategy. The things that Jesus said is the dominant strategy. It's just that we can keep practicing it better and better and better and better and better and better. And that's what's happening, is that we keep making the math get finer and finer and finer in detail in how we're loving each other and taking care of each other. And, doctors don't have a conscience against nudity, obviously. A conscience against nudity is not going to survive as a doctor. They will literally pick your penis up off the floor and sew it back on for you and hope that you have a good penis. Then that's good. That's good. Somebody has to care. Somebody has to care. Doctors care. Why can't you be a doctor? right? What's the difference between choosing to do that and not doing that is really just the choice, right? And now how the choice affects the rest of the math going on in your brain, and now you have to, like, everything has to adjust, but that's okay. So anyhow, that's what I have to say about that right now. As a scientist, I wanted, like, this is like something I'm actively, like, investigating, right? This intelligent darkness. I mean, I know, like, I don't really tell you, like, people have the wrong answers in them, and the wrong answers are moving around, and I'm right. But there's a lot more involved. I think there's a possibility people could be losing consciousness to it, and that takes over, and then they go out and they do a mass shooting or school shooting, or commit suicide. I deal with a lot of serious problems, so if I'm not having very good bedside manner when talking about these things, I sincerely apologize, because I'm kind of desensitized to having to be sensitive to problems, and I can't really tell, but I apologize if I am. If I needed to calm down about serious things, I got a sudden push. Maybe that's the case. Maybe that is the case. Anyhow, so like I'm thinking that in the math, in my experiences, it looks like there's a possibility people could actually be blacking out to an algorithm that they're picking up in their life, and that's kind of taking over their brain and hijacking their consciousness is basically what's happening. And it's like a combination of like bad movies they watch and don't really know why that they would like it. Like if people are watching like a serial killer movie and they're a very good person and they don't have any idea why you would watch a serial killer movie, but trying to socialize in with the group, they just flip a switch, right? And until they struggle with that, until it basically takes over, and then they literally black out. That's what it looks like. They're just like hypotheses. They're just things I'm looking at. They're not really made very lightly at all. But I still am doing an active investigation into these things. Now, eventually I'm going to have a nonprofit I'm starting that does this. A lot of people working on this. And those types of problems. A lot of problems in human genetics and fringe problems and astrophysics, and it's all over the place. Basically, problems that are so serious and so obscure, we desperately need people to be there, but there isn't very many people there that I know of, because I deal with a lot of problems myself, and I just have to do them. Yeah. So what I was going to say is that, so what I'm saying is that, oh yeah. So I think that if people would have said something like, if we would have just known, that's what kind of inspired me, and my head just runs constantly. And I was thinking about this whole thing going on, about the death paradigm, the intelligent death paradigm, and how it relates to abortion and a lot of problems, and how people, we're not thinking about, we need to think about, like, I'm a Christian, right? So I agree with Jesus. It's just that when you're not looking at all the words together and you're not understanding it from a scientific point of view where it has to make sense to the environment, you're basically kind of like worshiping your imagination and getting a lot of things wrong and hurting a lot of people's lives in the process, right? So I am a Christian, but I don't necessarily agree with you, but I'm telling you I agree with that. As far as I know, I agree with that. So that's there's a lot of things we have to discuss and that they're very sensitive, but I'm going to give you a starting point, is that you need to look at the outcomes, right? It's not black and white, right? It's not black and white. Should I do that? It's like, should I do this or should I do that within this context? It's like, if like, should I drink this cup of water? Is the water poisoned? Don't drink the cup of water if it's poisoned. It seems like common sense, right? But when you get into, everything that could possibly go on, it's not always common sense. And things need to make sense to me, so I take the way that things need to make sense to me and I give them to other people. But I'm personally in a lot of very sensitive areas, and where my mind's calculating, solving problems, and understanding what needs to be done. And I have to get other people there. I can't just start talking about, like, here's what we need to do, right? Because if I could, like I said, words are abstract. I say, here's what we need to do, and it means something completely different to another person, and it causes people to get hurt. right? So I'm not going to say here's what we're going to need to do. I'm going to give people my work, my models, and so they can use their brains as computers to go around and look around in the math and come to the same conclusion I come to, or different ones, and then we can talk about it. But once you're at a point where we can have sensitive conversations, then we'll have sensitive conversations. So that's why I'm talking, because it came up in my mind. If somebody just would have said something suddenly, just like popped into my mind, and I noticed I did experiments on these things that randomly pop into my mind. They're not arbitrary. Like I make phone, like I ask people questions you're not supposed to ask people, and I make phone calls when you're not like supposed to be making a phone call and asking them something that seems like you have psychic powers that you're even asking them at all. But I did it anyway. Because how are you going to know? How are you going to know? You're going to be afraid of people accusing you and judging you and looking at you like you're weird. That's that evil algorithm. Because people, that's what I realized. People, you can talk to me about anything, right? And you want to come talk to me? I'm not going to punish you for thinking. We're trying to figure things out in our environment together. I'm not going to punish you for thinking. And I realize that people are punishing me for thinking. That is weird. That's not my problem. I don't do that to people. It's just like I have to realize these things. Whoa. Like the fact that politicians are running advertisements that degrade other politicians. I've never voted for anyone that runs advertisements where they say, well, John Candy, he's a big doo-doo head or whatever. I won't vote for you. That's not consistent with people that make intelligent decisions. I know intelligent people, they don't do that. I don't do that. It's just not a smart decision. I would never here's vote for me because this guy sucks. Who does that? That's who's running things? That people? No, you can't run things. You can't run things. So I would never vote for you. I forgive you. You're a human being and I really care. It's very special. You want to be better or whatever. Personally, I'm saying no. You need to go to college better or something. But it's just all these things are occurring to me. I have been being suffocated with a plastic bag over my head. And recently I'm coming to conclusions whoa, what is going on? So anyhow, if that ever becomes safe, someone just would have told me, here you go, I'm telling you. I'm not ready to I don't have everything together really yet, but I'm telling you, there you go.